Welcome to Exiles, a Gospel of Mark podcast. We're coming to you from Grace Church in Erie, Pennsylvania, where we're taking what we learn about ancient truths and the person of Jesus into our everyday life. You can check out whoisgrace.com/Mark for the sermon and resources that we're using for our conversation. Thanks for joining us today. We're continuing on in season 3. In this section of Mark, we're calling the Jesus Way. It's going to run for a couple more months. And what we're doing is we're following Jesus through Galilee as he continues his teaching and healing work while training his disciples and facing down the increasing opposition. I've been saying it's like Jesus doing the most. You see him like super activated with other people. So, hello.
Hi.
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 Question of the day as we introduce ourselves. Are water bottles getting out of hand?
Yes.
Well, that was easy.
100%.
Put mine away.
For those who are listening right now, you need to go to the YouTube channel and look at the visuals.
Yeah, maybe we could put up like a picture. So
I clearly don't drink enough water. I don't have
As a
water
proud
bottle.
millennial, this is like my safety water bottle.
Yeah.
I have
Yes.
to bring it with me everywhere.
Yeah.
And I
Security
also
blanket.
emotional
the
support.
stickers
water bottle.
on it.
Bumper stickers are millennial
clearly
thing
a
for sure.
flex.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah, you've had
No
that for
one
a while.
could steal it.
breweries, that's where I got my AK-47. That's hot sauce.
I used to be a Nalgene person, and our friend, when they first came out, we would like try to run them over because they were like indestructible.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I've definitely broken. Well, no, I've
No,
broken the
they're
cap,
yeah, the
not
cap.
the actual. You're right.
The actual
you're right.
bottle's indestructible, supposedly.
Really?
Oh,
I didn't
wow.
know
It
that
really
about
it is.
Yeah.
You can't even.
I mean, they used to be.
They are pretty. It's robust. It's been through. I've not been nice to it.
I have one in my car that's full of stickers.
Ooh, how often do you clean yours out? Because
Every day.
I know. Do you?
Do you
Oh my
really?
God, you're
I
so
at least
good
rinse
about-
it.
I wait until I see black stuff.
Inside or in the straw.
Well, I don't have a straw,
Either.
but
Inside
inside.
would be-
When
Or
I
it
see
start-
some
oh, yeah,
black
the straw.
stuff, I'm like, probably should put
It
this
starts
one
to
in
get
the
a funk. You
dishwasher.
can smell it.
Yeah,
You guys just go straight water, or do you flavor it?
straight water.
Straight water.
I flavored it today.
What?
With what?
Just
Like
like
Crystal
a-
Lights or
No, it's like a non-aspartame orange.
nice. Like electrolyte water type
No,
thing?
not really.
Just a flavor.
Yeah.
Energy? No.
No, I'm not. No.
So again, on the YouTube, you're gonna see 3 water bottles arrayed and a very dehydrated Steven without a water bottle right now.
Well, I got all
Do
the
you drink
hydration
water?
I needed last week, so or the caffeine I got last week. Do I drink water? Yeah, I drink water.
Like, do you have a water bottle here
He's
in the
alive
office?
as a
I do
person.
not.
You don't even have a water bottle here.
I don't.
What do you drink? Do you wait till you get home and drink water?
I mean, I'll drink water at lunch.
Like it out of a cup?
I don't usually bring this.
Yeah, like if I go home and I'll drink water.
Do you have a water bottle there or do you drink out of a cup?
I drink out of a cup.
I mean,
You
think
drink
about it.
straight out of the faucet.
Not at the faucet. We have one of those
Sticks to the
like
head.
Toilet.
filtered
Oh, yeah.
things.
Okay.
Because we have well water, so we have to.
Yeah.
We have to filter.
Been there.
But I'm usually just a bottled water guy.
How do you drink water here at the office?
Cup.
I just work.
He works. He doesn't drink
Oh,
water.
Idiot. Yeah.
He earns the water while he's here.
That's what I said. When it gets to lunchtime, I
Yeah.
drink my water.
Well, think about it. Okay, let's keep going. If we at home and you're like eating a meal, do you have your water bottle or do you have a glass?
Well, then I
Have a
will have a
glass.
glass.
You usually
I'm
have a glass?
Actually, I don't
You
really
take
drink.
this to dinner?
I mean, at home. Like if you're having dinner at home, like are you
Glass.
just drinking out of your water bottle or do you pull
Actually,
a cup
I don't
out?
really drink water with like dinner. That's usually another beverage, but
Soda or like yes.
Oh,
I don't drink soda. But yes, yeah.
Soda. Okay. No, I like it's just my water bottle all day. Or I change over to one of my like Tervis cups. Like Yeti cups or something with a straw.
Oh, Travis
system.
cups are the bomb.
I have no idea what those are.
They like don't
Stan-
sweat.
like,
They don't
these-
sweat.
Funny.
What's that? Oh,
Like
that's
they don't-
really
they
loud,
don't
probably
say-
for the viewers. Too.
Yeah.
Now the
That was
ridiculous,
Sarah's water bottle, if anybody's wondering. Not an earthquake.
the money people will spend on the what's the new vibe right now? The super
Yeah.
The Stanley thing.
Stanley
Yeah.
like what? And you spend
What
so
are
much money on
Yetis
that
and
crap.
stuff?
Don't
Get
worry,
outta
now they have a
here.
lunch
Stanley's
box
been
that the
around for
9-year-olds are
such a
getting.
long time as well, and
now
there's
it's
one influencer
thermoses.
that like.
Correct.
My dad has Stanley
Yes.
stuff. Like
Like
it's
I worth so much money.
it's like green. It's like
Yep.
It has
Yeah.
like a handle.
It's like
a
metal. It's
metal.
Like, it's
yeah.
like textured.
It was
hammer.
Yeti, now it's Stanley. It's like, come on, guys.
And there's some other Walla. That's the new one. That's the Zennial one coming up, I think.
Algae,
So,
baby.
I'm gonna get
But
on
do
that
they
one.
actually motivate you to drink more water? 'Cause
Yeah.
I guess that's the point.
They
right?
motivate you to post on Instagram.
Yep.
I would not be motivated to have to lift that every time.
That's a
I wanna
barbell.
sweat.
Well, when
You
I
know
got
what
it, I was like, I probably should have had a handle. Like I
Yes.
probably would have enjoyed a handle more. So no, I just
And like a body strap to like
So
walk
the
around.
people
Walmart
that
has
can't
one.
see,
Walmart has one. They have a gallon one that comes in these cute bags.
Sarah
and they have,
has those, like-
keys.
What is it? Is that a liter?
It's a gallon.
That's a whole gallon?
That's a
It's a
gallon.
gallon.
Oh, wow. So she has times of the day. Do you match the times of the day?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, bye.
I think so. I'm a little
you're
behind.
No, you're there.
No, you're right on it. You're halfway
By
through.
11, you'll have peed. 4
So there's like little, if you can't see,
far,
there's
yes.
little
I just started this journey on Monday.
Hour markers.
hour markers that encourage her to keep drinking.
So we're gonna finish recording this by 11. So you better be down to that mark by the
So
And for me, I
listeners,
don't get myself too crazy, but as
ready
long
for
as
the
it's gone before I
slurps.
go to bed. And so far, so good.
Wow.
It started Monday.
Great
I really
have
like
a-
it.
Do you have like a new hobby,
Who
which is called
recommended
peeing?
Yeah.
all the
There's-
time?
I'll tell
Okay.
you what, on Monday and Tuesday, there were a couple times where
You know,
we had some close calls.
Yikes.
So Ben's new thing now when he comes home, he's like, any close calls today?
Is this like a
No.
is this a couples thing? Are you guys doing it together?
No, just like real quick. So I started working with a personal trainer, and she's teaching me meal planning, and the gallon water is part of it. And this is leading to me going through the training for a bodybuilding competition.
Whoa. What?
Yeah.
All right, now.
Throw out the plan that we had for the podcast. Let's dive into
This
this.
is a long journey. This is a long thing. I'm one of those people where I will I'll get fixated on something. And my fitness journey is such a long story anyway.
You're talking about
but
like
I'll probably do bikini in. Now I don't know if I will actually compete though.
Okay, that's fine.
But just to go through the training is like my ultimate
Wow.
challenge
Wow,
mentally
congrats.
and physically. So she's starting me, and we probably won't start the 14, 17 week training until first of the year.
Wow.
She'll take me.
So you're pre-gaming right now.
So we'll check in February.
We'll
when
check
we're
in
back.
February.
Wow.
So yeah, so the gallon water is an everyday thing, and I have a full meal plan every single day.
And this
She's
is your
teaching me how
weightlifting
to
plan
live.
also.
This is my weightlifting plan. Yes.
Wow.
So
Way to go.
That's great.
yeah, so it's been a long time coming. It's been a lot of research, it's been a lot of talking, but I will tell you what, watching God line people up in my life with my fitness journey and stuff, and how I met my personal trainer, it was all him. He was like, okay, you're ready now.
Cool.
He shoved me in there, and I'm like, okay, let's go. Thank you. I'm really excited.
Great.
So I'll let you know.
Awesome. All right. Well, speaking of
segue that one, Danielle.
Good luck.
feeling disqualified at the beginning of a journey,
Oh, I love it.
today we're talking. Pastor Eric's big idea is that Jesus is available to restore those who think they're disqualified. And we come across two unnamed characters in this passage of scripture, and a woman and a deaf mute man. And one cool, I thought, jumping off phrase, it was kind of just a throwaway phrase that he said, but I wanted to bring it up to you guys because I think we circle around this a lot on this podcast, that those two characters show us that true discipleship is an ongoing decision to obey Christ. Whatever he says, wherever he goes, I'll follow even in my failures.
Yes.
I thought that was like a good, it's kind of like our vibe, what we talk about a lot. So yeah, I just want to bring that up. That was cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
All right, so 4 ways Jesus gives hope to the disqualified. Let's just take these and let's talk about kind of our thoughts. So one point that he made is that sometimes Jesus needs to get your attention to draw out your faith. Yep. Okay, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can, yes. I relate to that very much.
Okay, how so?
Okay, sure. So practically and personally, because we were already talking about this fitness thing.
Yeah.
So I remember in my 20s, my mom was like, you better like get it together because you're going to get in your 30s and everything's going to catch up with you. I'm like, that's a lie. Nope, it happened. 32, boom, exploded in my face. And I've watched him slowly take me through not just a health journey, but also a mental journey. And the realization of things that he has made very clear to me has been very real. And my biggest one was how much alcohol and my relationship with alcohol and my cocktails and my social life and how things were affecting me, like how badly it was actually affecting me. He made it so abundantly clear. And I think he just kept letting situations and anxiety and horrible hangovers and missing days at a time and different things like that really just wreck me.
Sure.
And it took me to a point where I finally was this woman who fell at his feet and was like, please, you've got to change me. Like,
Yeah.
this is not okay. Like, I'm really trying to make changes mentally and physically. And I have to be so aware of these convictions. I'm going to tell you what, these last couple years of him changing me with that, it's been very slow. But the things I have learned from him and the things he has made me aware of and the things I have been able to do and my relationship now with alcohol and being sober curious, it is mind-blowing.
Wow.
Mind-blowing what he has done for me.
Talk to me about Sober Curious. I've never heard that
So
phrase.
sober curious is you still like to drink cocktails, like you still like to have your drink every now and then, like fine, but you're not like, it's not a part of every day. Like you have to understand.
Oh, it's not like a rhythm.
It's not like a rhythm.
Okay.
Like I was
Social
happy.
context.
Yep. I was happy. I drank. I was mad. I drank. I was stressed out. I was drank.
yeah,
I hung out with my friends. We were drinking. We went to dinner. We were drinking. Like everything revolved around adding alcohol to the event.
Oh, okay.
Went to a concert. How are we going to get home? Went to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everything was about, it circled around partying and having a cocktail. Now it's like under control where I don't need that. I recognize that like I can be with my friends or I can go to dinner or I can be mad and I can be sad and I can be happy and I can celebrate and I don't need it.
Yeah.
I just don't need it anymore.
It doesn't need to be an immediate reactionary reach for a drink in those situations.
Yeah, like when it was more like COVID didn't
habit.
help anything either.
Oh, well,
being
that
at
didn't
home,
help anybody
hello
with
red
anything.
wine. Oh, like it was just like.
You can send your emails to info@whoisgrace.com.
But it was wild. Like
I think the cool thing
cool.
about you, Sarah, is like you're very attuned, and we'll talk about this, but you're very attuned to like, I think God, when he gets your attention, you
listen.
listen, and you're the type of person that, I'm sure you have bad days, obviously,
do.
but like you generally are leaning in.
Yes,
which is
I at least I really
very
try
inspiring.
to, and I think that's why I always say like be very self-aware. Like you have to be honest with yourself, or nothing's going to change. Like you have to do the work. Like he is there for you, and he's giving everything that you need. But like, shooey.
I liked when Derek had faith builder versus faith buster. Like to me,
Yeah, that's good.
so like post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and like, you know, that's a buzzword here, but there's also such a thing as post-traumatic growth. And so in those stressful situations, you can actually grow from them.
Yeah.
And so just the idea of some of these,
I'm learning new words today.
I know,
This is
it's
awesome.
Well, and they've
Usually
done,
you bring the
and they do
words.
studies about, but it's, you know, if you're faced with, if God's trying to get your attention, you do have a choice.
Yes.
Is this going to be a
Yes.
faith
Yeah.
building, cementing moment, or one that's gonna tear you away? And so you had a choice.
And
you
most
made
of the
a
time,
choice.
I think what's the hardest about these things is you're having to face yourself. You're having to realize like,
Yeah, that's hard.
and that's a really tough time. But on the other side of it, it's so much better. It's so much. So now, like, don't get me wrong. Like, if I have an event I'm going to, there has to be a long list of everything checked off before I will even remotely let myself like have a little bit of fun. Because the next day, like, it's not worth it.
By
Like, it's
fun,
not
you
worth
mean
it to me anymore.
have a couple
yeah,
of-
have
yeah.
some drinks. Like, let my hair down a little bit. Like, have some fun with my friends, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, no, it's
and you
very
don't have
different
fun
now.
outside of that. Very clearly, you're not a.
No, I'm not a fun
Fun-
person
yeah.
at all. No, it's just like, no, it's just, it's gotten a lot better. And I think I needed to be convicted and changed. And he
wow.
absolutely changed me. And I'm so, so grateful. The out of controlness I would feel like during the moments where I was drinking, I would feel so out of control in my own head. And I would feel so out of control the next day, my anxiety. It was crippling.
Wow.
But it was
And I wasn't able to change it by myself.
it was God orchestrating your circumstances.
Yeah.
It was also you making a decision to walk with the Spirit and to do the hard work.
Yes.
And that's cool.
Thank you. So
Yeah,
there it
thank
is.
you. Wow, thank you for sharing that. I think
welcome.
so many times we get these like lofty examples, but like that's like
Nope. And that's a real
very
thing.
tangible example. That's
Yeah.
great.
And you would say you're quote unquote victorious
Yes.
or on the other side of that
I am feeling.
2 years. Did I hear you say?
Oh
it's-
gosh, probably. I feel like things started changing like drastically. Probably like. What year are we in? 2024? When
a
did
great
COVID
question.
really
I wondered
open
that
again? I don't
sometimes,
even
too.
remember. I feel so blurred. I would say 2 years, sure. But I will tell you what, like anyone who wants to ever talk about this, if they're struggling with it, find me. I will talk to you about it. It is so much better on this side.
Yeah.
And I want people to feel this. Like, you don't have to feel the way that you feel. Like,
Yeah, that's good.
you can do it. Like, it's great.
So walking down that road a little bit, I'm curious because Derek said something in the message that he either inadvertently said it or did say. I can't actually remember, but there was this reality where this woman in the scripture is actually she's standing firm in her disqualification, and that's what stood to me.
That's what Jesus,
because it goes to what you're saying as well, Mike. Like there's a choice, faith buster, or faith builder. There's a choice in that moment where we acknowledge that we are actually disqualified for all intents and purposes. She was disqualified. You were at one point disqualified. You have to own the disqualification. Yeah. But in the confidence of owning that disqualification, it's like facing up to your reality. That's where God does his best work.
And he usually, the process has been very slow, but the things that I've learned and he's taught me and shown me. And when I look back, I am so grateful to him for the work that he did in me, like, and keeping me strong and like focused. It took us to a whole other place with our relationship. Like I'm blown away by what he did and the power that he was able to do. Cause I never thought I would ever get away from it.
Yeah.
Like just kind of trapped like in this mindset. It's been so great.
Just because I'm curious about this, when did you see the mental health shift, or when did you start to turn that corner a little bit after making these like conscious decisions that, hey, this may be a problem, or it may become a problem quickly?
There was a couple summers ago where I had missed more than one day, and I had woke up and I felt so horrible physically and mentally, anxious, like out of control, physically ill, like just missing days at a time. But you're also having to deal with a great deal of embarrassment when you're sober. Because you look back like on how you behaved. You are a woman of like, and you have to remember too, at this time, I'm a woman of God. Jesus is very much who I am, and people know that.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Okay. And so I'm dealing with the embarrassment and regret and
of poorly representing. Yeah.
Yes, it was so huge for me. I was missing moments with him. I wasn't spending time with him on daily because I was too sick, or I didn't feel good, or I put a social event before time with him, like not coming to church, like just different stuff like that. And I was kind of justifying it. But there was a summer where I was like, Sarah, like you are officially at the bottom, like, and you can't get out. Like you have to turn to him and fall and tell him what's going, like you need to own it. And he took it from there.
It's really cool.
It was rough. But here's the thing though, I wouldn't take any of it back. Yeah. I wouldn't change it. That's not a regret of mine, because at the end of the day, that moment put me where I am now with Jesus. And to me, that's all that matters. And I get to use this to help other people. Yeah. Regardless if it's their situation with alcohol or not. It's a situation, but it's a way for me to show his glory and be like, he will fix it. Yeah. Just be patient. And now the time frame and how everything lines up with everything, it makes so much sense. So now for me to get here and to be training for this, it's mind-blowing. Like I never would have been able to even fathom that idea if I hadn't involved
now
him.
I feel like we've messing up the order of the
I'm
sermon.
So sorry.
But no. But you go to the end, and it's
that's fine.
Jesus gives you a story to tell of his goodness.
Yeah.
And so after he healed the deaf and the mute man now, and then he couldn't stop telling people about what Jesus had done.
He was like, don't tell anyone.
But now
like,
you've been in humility, had one of those moments, made a decision, it's worth it, and now whether it's, I mean, great on this podcast, but like I can only imagine how many people that you have told already since then, and that you are, and now you're representing Jesus well. Like that's the point. And
I'm not ashamed of it either. And I think that's a big thing. Like you made a mistake, Jesus saved you. It's okay. Yeah. Move on. Like don't beat yourself up about it. Be honored that he stepped in and you were able to have this experience and this journey with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's neat. And I think your story should be encouraging for those who have known Jesus for a while.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because there is this mantra that Jesus, life should be perfect, so therefore and then that's where secret sins come in, right? Mm-hmm. And then we just live these lives, 20 plus years of secret sins. And I think you're a great testimony of, because I think the shame that, and this may not be true, but the shame that...
No, it was shame.
Well, yeah, it's shame regardless, but the shame that a sinner who comes to Christ for the first time feels versus the shame of the believer who's messed up again and again and again and again and again. That shame could feel much deeper because there is a ongoing awareness of Christ's sacrifice for you.
I got to come back to you again.
I got to come back. But
and to your point, the propensity to hide it.
Yep. Yeah. And it's the reminder of the disqualified. You're like, I'm disqualified. I'm disqualified.
I keep screwing up.
I keep screwing up.
And that's where that humility comes in is have always been disqualified, will always be disqualified, except for the fact that when God looks at me, he doesn't see my sins, he sees his son's righteousness. And we can come to the throne boldly, over for the same sin, over and over through our entire lives, and he will welcome us back each time.
And she
that's not
represents
human.
that in the story. Like, her boldness was
Correct.
Something he appreciated, and he did something with it.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, and I think what you were saying, like, about owning the disqualification, the difference between owning the disqualification, sitting in it, and being righteous in it, that's way different than this woman's posture with, as you're saying, Mike, the humility. So if you own the disqualification, but you have this, like, humble spirit about it, I think that's where God does his best work.
Yeah. It's confident humility.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's a good...
Like, 'cause I don't think they're on opposite ends of the spectrum.
I agree, yeah.
She was clearly confident.
Yeah.
Because Jesus even challenged her, like, like, you're a dog, in the grand scheme of, this,
How the
religious
world was,
structure in that time. Like, you're a pagan. You're out of the fold. You're not, one of the Israelites. And she's like, yeah, I know.
Which, and
Yep,
they almost have been like, what?
Yeah.
And then she added to
She
the parable.
added to it.
That's
Yeah,
so cool. I never
cool.
made
Yeah.
that. That's so cool.
And people, like, it was and didn't Derek say it was the first time that someone had done that?
It was the first time someone got it.
Got
Someone
it.
got
That's
it,
what it was.
Pharisees,
Yeah,
disciples,
nobody else.
and this woman, the bold humility. Yeah, that's...
And back to the dog reference, I was doing my reading when, like, on that story, and they even say, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but what I read was they call her a little dog. He says little dog or little, something about little. Will you read it?
Oh, it's not in here. These are just
It's
my
on here.
notes.
Okay. He actually lightens the blow a little bit. Like, he's showing a little bit of compassion towards her. Like,
could look that up.
He's stating the fact that it's happening. Like, that this is a real fact of the world, that the Gentiles are, he's referenced them as the dogs. And at the time, the dogs were considered like bottom of the barrel. They ate garbage, and women were along that. So, like, what I read was he says something about, he lightens the blow lightly about, does it say little dog?
Yeah, I mean, little dogs
Little
is kind of
dogs.
the...
And it's his way of showing a little bit of compassion towards her in regards to him referencing calling them dogs.
So that's something you read, like, in a commentary or study about something?
Yeah,
Oh,
it was a commentary that I read.
Okay. Yeah.
And I thought that was just really interesting. Like, even in the moment, he's trying, like, he's being compassionate about the
challenging
situation,
her,
but he's
but still
challenging.
showing
Yes, but he's
a
showing
hint of
love and
and
respect.
she is responding to
Yes.
that with bold humility.
Yeah. Mike, you had an interesting thought just about, like, this woman would fall into a category, I think, today where, like, we would, like, if we were at the mall or something and Jesus was talking to a person that wasn't a believer and they completely understood everything he was saying, whatever. Are there groups of people that we think, like, how do we want to say this? Like,
Shouldn't get it, but do.
shouldn't get it, but do. Or do we see people in culture who get it and we're like, they're getting it. We know it. We're not doing it well. They're doing it better than we are. Those kind of things.
Can I rile people up?
Sure.
Oh.
So we live in a very...
Again, info@whoisgrace
We live in a very Catholic context.
in Erie, Pennsylvania.
In Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And as I've had discussions with some people who are Catholic or grew up in the Catholic Church or whatever it might be, I've had some amazing conversations and the grasping of biblical truth. And I think, so those of us in our flavor of church, there can be a tendency to kind of look down on the more
like mainline,
the more mainline or the more kind of structured
didn't follow
forms.
Martin Luther, is that what you're saying?
That's right. But it's I've had just some crazy cool conversations,
Yeah.
even recently this week, just with a woman who like got it, and she was saying, I was like,
yeah,
ma'am, I'd love to take what you just said, the heart that you have right now, clone it, and shove it about 100 other people at my church.
Yeah, it's great.
So real.
And it's, again, maybe the initial thought is like, well, they're not going to quite get it like we get it, but I've seen the Syrophoenician woman,
Yeah.
this kind of thing in that area pretty often.
I grew up Lutheran, and when I quote unquote got saved, which, whatever, I don't even know if I believe that anymore, but like, but I was a teenager, so, the whole thing happened. So I could not get out of there fast enough, out of that church.
You're Lutheran church,
Yeah, the
you
Lutheran church, to get to another, something where my friends were going and, whatever. And pretty quickly, I mean, maybe a couple years, I want to say, after, as I looked back, I was like, oh my gosh, that woman literally shared the gospel with me. Like, that woman at that Lutheran church was trying. That Sunday school teacher, literally, I mean, and just, I just wasn't ready to see it, obviously.
Well, probably
That's
built
fine.
the foundation, I have to imagine.
Absolutely. As I look back on that, like, so that's where some of my richest, like, foundational stuff comes from.
That's cool.
But that's a great example. We can very easily be like, that they're just like pompins.
They're not going to get it.
Yeah, so I think about it maybe from a different standpoint as well. Like, there's been many interactions I've had over the years with specifically fathers, dads, or fathers, husbands, whatever, male figures, where they don't know Jesus. For all intents and purposes, they're better Christians than the majority of the Christians. Like, I'm looking at these people, I'm like, you sacrifice your life for your kids. You love your wife like Christ loved the church. You just wouldn't say that. And I'm actually inspired by you.
Yeah.
And one of the guys I say this about a lot, I still say it to this day. He may listen to this. I can't imagine that he would, but as my sister's husband. And I don't know if he has a relationship with Jesus at this point. But gosh, what a saintly man.
Oh, wow.
Just
yeah.
loves, gentle, firm. So him and my sister have 3 kids. The first one is not his.
But might as well be.
What an amazing.
But Ben calls Stevie Dad. And
I love that.
And it's just like, just a phenomenal man, just a really great, and like, yeah, you put a lot of us to shame, honestly.
Yeah.
You put a lot of us to shame, and he's had his own journey with faith as well. But my gosh,
Bluey's dad is another one.
Bandit.
Bandit
healer.
A whole nother level.
He's the best. Do you know there's a whole like
Speaking of real
subreddit about
people.
him and about how like
I believe it.
before Bluey
He's a better
started.
father than I ever will be.
Oh, no kidding. Dave says that all
My
the time.
kids
He's
are not
like,
allowed
I
to
can't
watch
live up to this.
Bluey because I'm not that great a dad.
It's so idealistic. The parenting is so good. There's like a subreddit about like
I'm just setting my
him.
kids up
Even
for
you're allowed to
failure
watch
and disappointment. Why would I let them
that
watch
he
that?
and Chili were about to get a divorce before Bluey started the show. And so this is all him like winning back his family.
No.
There's like all these like stories about these people. And I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's true.
I want it to be
Fun
true.
to imagine.
Let's just pretend like
And
it's true.
do you know he's an archaeologist?
Yeah.
And that's so cute.
Well,
But he also
doesn't
never
work.
goes to work. yeah.
But because all he has to do is dig for bones,
Found
like a
some-
dog. And Chili she works in security at the airport, so she's like a bomb sniffing dog. Isn't it cute?
It's so well done.
Anyway,
And
I love that
It's
show.
so cute.
Sponsor us, Bluey, Disney Plus. Also email us. Oh my goodness, disqualification all over the place. Woo. Okay, so I love this part of the story. The mute. And Pastor Eric's point that Jesus will restore you in a deeply personal way. And just like just thinking of like, I think
Yes.
Derek even said this, but what a spectacle this guy's life must have been. And like just constant just ridicule,
Yep.
outsider. his issues were just on display. It wasn't like, oh, does he have mental health issues or whatever? It was just like everybody knew and, you know, whatever. And that
How isolating.
How isolating, and that Jesus didn't need to he didn't need to touch him in the ways that he was touching him or do anything. He could have done it from 10 miles away. And I just thought that was a really profound thing to think about.
And I didn't, the times I've read the story before there, I never ever thought about what his life must have been like before then. It never crossed my mind. So I appreciated Derek bringing that up. But from a humorous point of view, the spit part really threw me off. I was like,
this is how, who recently spit? Oh, Michael Todd.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah, that's not good.
I was like,
not good.
Who is Grace?
But
no,
it's true. It's ridiculous.
But then when he broke it down, and I was like, thank you for breaking it down, because I have an image in my head, and I'm trying not to make commentary or like laugh about the story, but it threw me off.
Yeah.
Like when he was like, Jesus spit. And I was like, okay.
I mean,
but the intimacy through which Jesus chose to heal him was an intimacy he surely didn't have because of his disability. Also, imagine deaf. So does he even know who he's getting brought to at this point? Is he just being led to this stranger? He doesn't, because he's not hearing about Jesus, and then all of a sudden the stranger is doing all these things.
So
like his sign language is probably not a thing in the first century.
Not more than rudimentary.
Yeah.
Or did the Holy Spirit step in and tell him?
Yeah, it could be just observation. Wait, he wasn't blind, right? Just deaf.
No.
Just deaf and
So maybe he could have been watching.
Could have been watching.
But he's just
imagine, yeah.
So then how much more powerful would that moment of intimacy
Mike.
and that Jesus chose to gift him with that intimacy when he didn't necessarily withhold it, but he didn't choose to intimately heal in other scenarios.
The other thing too that you're making me think of, have you guys ever seen those videos where like a baby will get a hearing aid for the first time? And probably the closeness is like, this is about to get insane for you. You're about to like hear, you know what I mean? That's just care.
I'm going to be your first thing. I'm going to be
I'm going to be your first thing, and we're going to be right here. And then,
about to open up a brand new dimension.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's
how amazing.
And it is, the first thing he heard was Jesus. Woo! And the first thing he got to talk clearly to was Jesus.
It's crazy.
I can't wait to see him. I can't.
Same.
I'm so excited.
Do you guys have examples of this, or you heard it like any ways that you feel? I mean, you don't have to get too personal about it if you don't want to, but just ways that you feel like Jesus has met you more.
So my sin of the past is hypocrisy. I mean, in that, we talked about hypocrisy last week, but I think that's why I'm so passionate about the inconsistency of the 90s Christian culture, and I bring it up a lot. But I was the hypocrite of hypocrites. Like I was literally partying. You start young in Scotland, but I was partying every single week while I was also a leader in the church. I would literally on Friday nights run a youth group, hundreds of youth. I mean, I'm probably 16, 17 at this point. Then I'm driving to Edinburgh, the capital city of Scotland, and I'm partying Friday night, Saturday night, getting in at like 4 o'clock in the morning, waking up at 7:30, and then driving to church and doing, whatever I was responsible for doing. Like that was 2 years of my life. And it was, hypocrisy from the age of 12, and there's a whole identity issue wrapped around that too. But when Paul says I was the hypocrite of hypocrites, like I relate, I was the worst of the sinners or whatever, however he phrases it. But talking about Jesus meeting me in a very personal way, so there was about a 6-month wrestle with God where, the conviction of the Holy Spirit, if anybody's ever experienced that, it's like, scripture says there's nowhere that you can run from the presence of God. You can't hide under the rock, whatever. It's just there. And I knew that there was things that I had to do, but I wasn't prepared to actually do it. And it was like wrestle after wrestle after wrestle. And it was like, well, if I do this, if I confess this, my whole life crumbles. Like it all led up to leading a Monday night Bible study, youth Bible study at my pastor's house. Everybody left. And for some reason, supernaturally glued to this chair. And he came back into his front room after, everybody had left, and he was like, what are you still doing here? And then the next thing I knew, I was just like, I told him everything.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I'm not who you think I am.
Wow.
And like, I'm doing this with females, I'm drinking, I'm, drugs. It was my whole story. It was like, it was extreme. And he was just like, whoa. But it was like talking about Jesus meeting you in a personal way. It was like, okay, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it for you.
Yeah.
And I didn't, it was almost like an outer body experience. I didn't know what I was doing until I was actually confessing everything to him. But God and his love and in his care, placed Mark, was my pastor's name, in my life in that season to actually challenge me in deeply personal ways, and actually gave me steps, timelines, all in that. I don't even know how long I stayed there.
Yeah. But like just what your personality would need. Yeah,
exactly. But even without him probably even knowing, address some of the identity issues that I was even wrestling with, and why I had made decisions when I was 12 to do whatever it took to fit in, and all of those things. It was just like this culmination of God going, I know you, and I'm about to meet you where you're at. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be easy. It's actually going to be really, really difficult. People are not going to understand, but I know you love me and I love you. And so let's go.
My question to you is, after that moment, do you remember how you felt? Like, did you feel almost like a huge sense of like release, like relief, like a huge weight off of you, like when that conversation was over and you were going home next day even?
For sure. Yes, definitely. Because obviously when you hold on to those secrets for so long, it weighs and weighs and weighs, and your shoulders aren't big enough to carry that.
Nope.
So there was a sense of relief, but it was also like, I know my Bible well enough to know what is about to happen. So he even gave me moment to, like, without going into all the details, to get up in front of the congregation.
Oh, shoot.
Because that's how public my position was, and even say, I'm not who you thought I was. And so it was like...
And you did that.
And I did that, yeah.
That's impressive.
Steven, good for you.
And so it was like, but it was like this, it was this catalyst moment for me in a lot of ways, like God going, I know you need to do this.
You need to speak this into
so it was, and those sorts of moments hold you accountable. And it wasn't like me bearing my sins in front of everybody and people throwing rotten tomatoes at me, but it was like, hey, I just need to be honest that I haven't been honest with you. And I've been leading your kids. And I need to ask for you. And so it was like this whole thing, it was a really, really powerful moment. Yeah. But what my personality needed, what Stephen needed in that moment in order to take my faith to where I wanted my faith to go. I just didn't ever know how to get it there because I had all this sin and hypocrisy of the past. God says, okay, I'm going to meet you. And we're going to do this together. Yeah. So it was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. That's really great. Well, you just basically did this, but I think when you both have, Sarah too, but Derek's last point was that Jesus gives us a story to tell.
Yeah.
And he goes through the proper response when you experience God's work in your life. 3 things. We can hone in on each one of these. Tell the story of what he's done, like personal reflection, and worship. Thoughts?
So I'll say that story, because throughout now the course of my Christian life, God has continuously given me complex people to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
With difficult pasts, unique pasts, which I would say mine is. And I always say, oh my gosh, why do I have to deal with another one of these people? But it's because I really was one of those people. And so it just goes exactly to that point. Like, what God brings you through, he's also preparing you for. And I don't know if that's necessarily a rule, but it's definitely a trend. And I'm grateful for it. So if you had issues with alcohol, there's a chance that God is now bringing you through, redeeming you in, so that you can now speak to those people.
Not that it has to limit your, but
that's correct.
It's a clear opportunity God might be
putting
in front of you.
Yeah, and so that's just been my story. So I agree with that wholeheartedly, that God continues to give me difficult people to deal with that have really complex and complicated stories with deep roots, and it's hard to untangle. And it's frustrating at times, but that's exactly who I was.
You're making me think. I don't have permission, so I'm not going to use the person's name. But we got an email this week about the podcast, and one of the comments was just about how to, you're doing it right now, which is why I'm bringing it up, but how to be able to celebrate what God brought you through, or the thing that you dealt with, or difficulties or whatever, and be where you need to be and realize that God's using you without dismissing the pain, the frustration, and because those things also build you to be who you need to be for these other people, or whatever it looks like. Yep. So I just wanted to say that to that person, like that's not, I think that's the heart of what we want to portray here. It's just that when you're so far on the other side of it, sometimes it can be easy to just say, this happened because of what's happening now. Like what's happening now is because of, cause and effect. And that is part of it. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that we don't recognize the journey.
And I would even say early on, the temptation to go back to that what's familiar is a real thing. Is a real thing. And God, again, in his providence and in his personal deep love for each individual. I say God gave me a wife because they could just cut through all BS. Like that's just who she is. If you know Nicole, like I say, I could debate and argue with the next best person and use my circumstances and my weaseliness to like win, but not my wife. Not my wife, because there's a whole lot of things that would have to happen in order for me to win an argument with my wife. But she's able to pull on that thread.
That's what you said.
I said that a couple of weeks ago.
I appreciate that.
But that's where it's coming from. Like God in his personal love gives me a wife that says, okay.
She's going to hold you accountable. Yep.
To keep you where I want you, or to keep you where I'm moving you to.
Yeah. She's not always going to agree with you.
Yeah.
She needs.
Often she doesn't.
That's good. He also makes a point about worship.
Yeah.
And, we have our own preconceived notions of what that's a loaded word. But I liked what he said. He said that this includes how you treat your coworkers, how you engage on social media, how you disagree with your spouse, Stephen, how you spend your time. Are you demonstrating in all these ways God's ultimate value to you? Which I thought for me was like, that hit me.
What I try to do from another point of like with the worship thing, don't forget the little moments too. Like in my story, if I'm in a situation where I know a couple years ago I would have been one way and I walked out of it a completely different way, I'm really diligent about remembering it was because of you. So I take time after, whether it's after I get home or the very next morning, I'm reflecting on the night before or the day before or whatever. And it's my own posture of worshiping him, but thanking him so much that he's done so much in me and changed me in so many ways that I'm able to walk away from a scenario that I would have been riddled with guilt or frustration or embarrassment. And I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to feel that way anymore. And so worshiping him and thanking him, that to me, that is also a form of worship.
And I don't think, we get super hyped in on like, great, we got 2 worship songs. We're going to worship for these 10 minutes and then we're going to and then I got to play some music to worship. Like, yes, that's worship, but
there's these moments all day.
Demonstrating God's value to you in your decisions, whether conscious or subconscious, like your obedience and the way you live your life is worship or it's not worship. And so making those decisions, you don't even need to consciously make those decisions. If you have now built in habits and patterns through the help of the Holy Spirit to live a life that's obedient to Jesus, that demonstrates God's ultimate value to you, you are worshiping him and you might not even know it.
Yeah.
Like worship is literally, it can be every second of every day, and that's not a superfluous statement.
No, and it's not some haughty, weird thing that...
Correct.
Yeah, that's good. And that goes to our discipleship question, and something practical that we can think about is, in this worship vein, what's my next small step of obedience today?
I want to say the emphasis on small as well.
Small, yeah.
Because I'm thinking about one individual that I walked, and he was so complex, and he had so much baggage, and we related so well, but I was a pastor at the time, and he would always come we would be every Tuesday or Wednesday, and we'd meet for lunch, and he'd always come so frustrated at his failures, but we would take time to like write lists down But what are the wins?
That's
What are
good.
the wins?
Who were you 2 weeks ago that you aren't today?
That's a great one.
And it's like worship in the wins, even if they're as small, and that's what I was thinking in my head, even
That's
if they're
great.
as small, they're so small actually that you just dismiss them. Bring them back and worship God in that win. You made a decision not to, and you might think, oh, well, a normal person wouldn't do that anyway. Yeah, okay. But
Right.
but this is the
your
path.
story, yeah.
This is
Yeah.
your story,
Yeah.
yeah. And so worship in those wins, even as small as they are, do not dismiss them.
Yeah, that's great.
Because if you dismiss them, then you're almost dismissing the work that God is doing in your life.
That's good.
Yeah, you're missing it. You're
Yeah.
flying above it.
Yep.
That's great. Thank you. Great discussion today.
That was vibing.
That was awesome. You can, again, just a reminder for you guys, go to whoisgrace.com/Mark for resources to catch you up, keep you on track, and, submit question, story. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, please.
We'll be back next week.
Yeah.
I'm counting myself down.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm not here.
Oh, no.
Is that next week? No, I'm here next week. Sorry, it's the week after. My bad. Disregard.
Don't worry. Sarah will be
We
here.
have no idea what our schedule is. But
No, it's fine.
But
Some
you
of us will see you next week.
You will. You're here next week, too.
Next week's my last one for
Okay. For a little
few
while.
weeks.
A little while.
We'll miss
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Bye.
Please end this 10 seconds early. Yeah, bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.